Knesset ambassadors, organizational heads and guests, thank you for inviting us to partner with you to initiate this hearing. Today we're hearing important testimony. We find ourselves in a uniquely challenging time, facing resurgent anti-Semitism on the far right and far left extremists who use this as an opportunity to further smear Zionism, perversely claiming that it is comparable to fascism and white supremacy. There are also white supremacists like Richard Spencer who use Zionism and Israel to whitewash their racist views, further reinforcing the hate coming from the far left. We must fight anti-Semitism vigorously on both the far left and the far right, as they increasingly resemble and feed off each other. And all too often, anti-Israel groups with names that disguise their extreme agenda, like Students for Justice in Palestine or so-called Jewish Voice for Peace, and others misleadingly pretend that their racist campaigns against Israel are in some way linked to their support to other groups. They feign support for minorities, but their support, though, is not real. Their actual aim is to subvert these causes in order to target the only Jewish country in the world. Shamefully, they co-opt the memory of the Holocaust and invert it to portray Jews as Nazis, the ultimate slap in the face to a nation that stood on the brink of extinction in modern times. This is not pro-Palestinian, it is anti-Israel and it is anti-Semitic. We will hear testimony today from students and young people who have been sidelined and silenced and shouted down on campus for their support of Israel. This must not stand. In just the last week, we drew attention to blatantly anti-Semitic images that were posted by a Rutgers University professor, which is now investigating the incident. We saw a revolting cartoon published featuring Alan Dershowitz in a manner that would not have been out of place in Der Stürmer, in the UC Berkeley student newspaper. And a Jewish student leader who was nominated for a position in Canada at the Student Society of McGill University was subjected to a hateful smear campaign and then rejected in a vote in the General Assembly. Now, here at the Knesset, politics is at the forefront, as is appropriate, in the beating heart of Israeli democracy. And for anybody who doubts Israel democracy, we should just show them the speech today from Knesset member Ahmed Tibi. We could show them his strange speech that sought to distract us from the topic at hand. But for Israel's enemies, it is not about what Israel does, it is about the fact that Israel is. Opposing this onslaught will require determination and a clear-eyed understanding of what we face. Our enemies, you can be sure, are determined. We must be more so. The answer is education. We must counter lies with the truth. We must tell Israel's story, the 3,000-year-old story of an indigenous people and their never-ending connection to their Jewish ancestral land, which today is a thriving, democratic, diverse and modern country, contributing immeasurably to the world. Our organization Stand With Us is addressing this issue with intensive educational outreach internationally, from the US to the UK, from Latin America to Asia, via educational videos and materials, with a deep-seated strategy in high schools, middle schools, a multitude of programs on campus, in the community, countering BDS with a vast legal network, and engaging in Israel outreach on social media, where we have a peak weekly post reach of over 100 million people. We're also critically bringing more non-Jewish students and leaders to Israel than ever before, and we will galvanize action for Israel at our international conference in Los Angeles in January. And we are seeing signs of the tide turning. In recent weeks, in California, the UC Regent's Principles Against Intolerance recognize that anti-Zionism often descends into outright anti-Semitism. It is a useful model for what universities can do to combat anti-Semitism. In Wisconsin, we saw they just became the 24th state to officially oppose BDS, as Governor Scott Walker issued an executive order prohibiting state agencies from contracting with any business entity that discriminates against Israel. And in Canada, the Ottawa Protocol definition of anti-Semitism is a useful tool. It's being adopted at some universities. And as we heard from the ambassador in Brussels, the European Union's recent endorsement of the similar IHRA definition of anti-Semitism has helped give Natan Sharansky's 3 Ds, delegitimization, demonization, and double standards, renewed legitimacy. And overall, BDS is losing, but we must never give up the fight. And distinguished ambassadors, I would say thank you for investing in Holocaust education. Please do not limit your efforts and intensify the fight against delegitimization, anti-Semitic delegitimization against the Jewish state. This is a fight we can win. It is a fight for the truth and not one that Israel fights alone. We stand with you and we are ready to work around the clock to push back against BDS and ensure Israel is treated fairly and positively around the world. You can be sure that a huge amount of people support Israel the world over, from diverse backgrounds and places: Jews, Christians, Muslim, Hindus and more, those of all religions and none, left and right, conservatives and progressives, people in the LGBTQ community, other indigenous peoples, and many other friends who we hear from consistently. They stand with us. Today we call on Jews to unify and ally and address this together. And we call on our non-Jewish friends and people of goodwill to stand and call out racism against Jews and against the Jewish state. To do so is to stand on the right side of history. It will take both courage and perseverance, but we must join together and say no more. No more.